Hello and welcome back to the second part of this tutorial series. In this part, we will just create some, basic room or two, connect them, place the player start, some lights, some props, just like the first map. Okay, so on the left side of the 3D viewport, you will have all those tools. For now, we will just use the geometry one. In this case, the cube, which is basically creating a simple room. So right click on it, and we'll open the cube builder. And here you can change the dimensions of the cube. So in this case, I would just go with 800 units for the height, 2000 for the width, and 1500 for the breadth. And then just hit build and close it. You will see a red outline or red wireframe array outline of the 3D cube. For now, it doesn't exist in the world. We have to so call it subtracted. This is done with those squares just below the geometry. We hit subtract. 1 second, wrong. My bad. If you do it now, since we didn't have selected a texture, it will use the default Unreal texture, which is like the checkered debug textures, like you're familiar with like the Half-Life games, where it's like actually pink instead of white. This is like the default texture in case you haven't selected one. My bad. So in order to actually select the texture, open up the content browser. If you close it previously, you can open it again with the pawn icon on the top, which says actor class browser, and then go to the textures tab. You can, on the drop-down menu, you can select the various packages containing the textures. Usually I choose the core ship textures, and then there's also a category for general, normal, shaders, and unique, and other stuff. For now, I just use let's just use this one. So we select it, so it's like some greenish outline, so it says it's selected. You can minimize it again, and now we hit the subtract button and see that the texture gets applied to the room. So in this state, the room exists in the 3D world. It's important that you hit subtract instead of add, because like if you want to create a room or any other geometry form, you have to subtract it from this sort of, you could say, the void, which is basically like not like it doesn't, like you cannot use it for regular gameplay. Although there are some exceptions, like actors can still spawn outside, but it's just like it's more like advanced for the future. Okay, so you created a simple room. If it appears dark, this means that you have dynamic lighting turned on. On the 3D viewport, you can there's like a second like bar where you can select some sort of stuff. By default, dynamic lighting is chosen, but you can go through the different modes, which like as they suggest, when you just hover over them, they will just change the rendering method. So yeah, dynamic lighting should be chosen to see the actual content of the space or the room. Okay, so we created a room. The next thing we would like to do is, how do we add other geometry in this room. Keep in mind that like this game concept or game design with this old Unreal Engine is like from the 2000s or mid 2000s, where the general idea was you create a bunch of rooms and then you like fill them up with some sorts of all those props. So most of the part or most of the level design is like simple geometry. So let's create, for example, a sort of wall. We go back to our cube builder. Let's say we select 200 and the height. For the width, we just say 500, and for the breadth 20. Just hit build again, and you see the red outline changed again. Now we come to actual movement of things, like whether they are actors or game assets or whatever. So if you just click on the outline of the red box, it will like have a brighter red and a rotation gizmo, which indicates that the actual the thing is selected, whether it's like the BSP geometry or like any other thing is selected. So it's selected, and how do we like move it around? It's simple. You just hold Control on your keyboard, and then the same same camera movement applies to the object manipulation. So hold Control, left mouse button is move it to left, to the right, front and backwards on the same height. Right mouse button usually rotates it, but we haven't selected a like rotation angle yet, so it doesn't rotate. And holding both mouse keys or mouse buttons like moves it up and down. So this is useful like if we go to our 2D viewports on the side. This is useful since we now can probably align it to the ground. In this case, I just hold the Control on the left mouse button since we're in a 2D viewport, and I just moved it down to get down to the base level of the floor or of the room. And the same over here, I just move it to the, I could say, the center of the map of the room. Move it a little bit down. And by the way, just using the mouse wheel to scroll in and down. So, 1 second. You can also, in the 2D viewports, you can click on those green and red arrows, and if you selected one of those, like the green arrow, for example, is now bigger in size or thicker. It indicates that now with holding Control on the left mouse button, it will only move it in this one direction, no matter like if you move the mouse sideways or not. It's useful if you just want to, move it in a straight line. And just by clicking on the like red green arrow again, it will just deselect it. Okay, so now we place the convenient wall on the side, and now this is very important. Since we are not in a void, we are just in a geometry room we created, BSP. What we have to do now is choose Add instead of Subtract. So we click Add, preferable with another texture if you want, but I forgot it now. And now we have a wall, a simple geometry wall. And this is like how you create basic geometry rooms. The same, for example, let me create another one. 500. For example, I have a separate room. Let me choose another texture to visualize it. This one. So I hit subtract again, and I have two separate rooms, not connected to each other. The easiest way to do it would be to just create another cube builder, cube BSP, and fill up the gap in between. By if you want to like do the trial and error, you would have to build it and then find out the right the right units of thickness or width to cover the gap. And if you're really lazy, you can just don't give a fuck and just like just create a BSP which fills up the gap and not care about the actual if it overlaps with the already existing geometry, since it doesn't really care. It's just like a lazy way of doing it. And again, if you just hit subtract, you now created a connection between those two rooms. Obviously, if you want to do it in a beautiful fashion, would have to adjust the coordinates and the thickness of the brush builder to fit your actual needs. It's just for the demonstration purposes, I would just do it the lazy way. Okay, so we created a simple two rooms connecting to each other. We created a wall which we subtracted from the room. Let's add some essential things to make the room or the map playable. The first thing we need is a player start, which is essentially like the spawn point for the player. To add this, we just left click on the floor. When it's highlighted, it will have some sort of bluish color to it. Then right click on the floor and select Add Player Start here. This is the spawn point for our for ourselves. If you want to rotate it, the 3D red, darkish red arrow indicates the rotation where we're facing when we spawn. If you want to change it or rotate it around, what you need to do is, so we have this player start selected. Left click on the outer dark blue angle rotation. It will the line will be thick now, indicating it's selected. Then hold Control and right click to rotate it around. So we can just change the rotation of the player facing when he spawns. So also make sure if you don't want to rotate it anymore, just deselect it. Also make sure that the player start is not too close to the wall, because otherwise the spawning will fail and most likely the game will crash, since there are no valid spawn points anymore. So just making sure that it's somewhat not too close to the wall. Okay, so we got player start, and next thing by default, since the next thing we will have to, or sort of have to, it's not really mandatory, but it's very usual for the actual playthrough, is having some lights. And again, right click on the floor and then select Add Light here. Select it, and then we can just move it around again by holding Control and the camera movements again. If you want to change the light properties, like the light color, the light radius, etc., you would have to open the properties window. This can be done by double clicking on the light or any other thing you want to change the properties. And it will open an additional window. And from there, for now, just you have the category light color, and then you can click on the tiny window called color and select like any other color you want to, or like a predefined one. Just select green, for example. You can also like insert the RGB values by yourself if you want to. Um, and then you have like additional lighting settings. Most of them are like self-explaining, and yeah, I will cover them in the future episode. Okay, so we got a player start, we got a lightning. Let's add some props to make it more good looking. Again, if you open the content window, go to static mesh tab, um, go to whatever you want to, course ship HR. Let me find a prop. Which is not too big. Come on. I just select it. Okay, so if you want to place, for example, this prop or whatever you just selected, um, right click again, select the floor you want to edit, right click, and then now it will appear an additional entry in the menu called add static mesh, and then the name of the package, the subcategory, and the actual name of the prop. So select it, and by default it's just conveniently marked or selected. And we can just drag it around, rotate it, move it up and down, or whatever you want to do. And yeah, and that way you slowly start building your map with starting with basic simple geometry, and then expanding it with static meshes or props. As you notice, probably the static mesh or the prop is dark. This is because we haven't built the lightning yet. The lighting. To do that, we go to the build tab on the top of the window. We can just do like rebuild lighting only or build all. Depends on if you're just changing the lighting all the time and you want to see if the color and the effects look good. You can just hit rebuild lighting only. This is faster than building all. Just keep in mind this is very important. Very important. If you're done with your map and you created new geometry, or you did or changed anything at all, or did something, always make sure that you select build all, because if you don't do that, the editor doesn't properly build the geometry, and this will cause either in the game crash when loading the map, or you instantly dying to the void. So when you're done with your map or you want to test your map in game, select build all, and now you can see the proper lighting, the greenish lightning we selected, and now the prop the static mesh is probably highlighted, or yeah, we could 1 second. So, if you don't want the dynamic lighting in your map, in your editor, by default the dynamic lighting or dynamic light is selected. You can choose textured, and it will disable all the lights and will just illuminate everything to which makes editing the map easier than with the dynamic lighting. So we just add another light here. We just move it around. As you can see, it somewhat updates it, lighting. Just hit build all, and there we go. Okay, so once we have built it, we can save the map. Make sure you save it in the maps folder. Call it Tut1. Okay, so it's now saved. Another suggestion from my side is I usually like to play the game in the window mode and with the lock window open. So I recommend creating a shortcut of the executable, call it SWRC or whatever. Go to properties and select at the target line, do a space dash lock space dash windowed, so you tell the game to launch in the window mode and with the lock window open. And when you do it, it will look like this. You have your let me mute the sound. You can use pause sounds to disable the music. And as you can see, I have my game and my this lock window where you can conveniently execute console commands while being in the menu. Just select a random campaign mission. Data. And then open, go to the log window, type in the console command open, and then the name of your map. In this case, Tut1. And 1 second. And as you can see, we just loaded in, and it just looks like in the editor. Obviously, the lighting is a little bit too much in this case, but again, this is something we can change easily. Also, in case you wonder which resolution I play, it's 1300 by 800. So again, we could just close the game with a quit command, go back to our editor, and then just adjust the lighting. For example, go to properties, light color, and then the brightness. Since this is like an 8-bit value, 255 is the max. Let's half it by like 127. You can see it's less glowy, and so on. Build it again, and so on. In the next part, we will expand the map with some more stuff like rotating textures, no more static meshes, particle effects, and so on. So see ya.